Now, when can public servants expect a fix? Why have there been so many problems to begin with? Joining me now from Montreal is Ontario Liberal MP Marco Mendicino. He looks well tanned. Good to see you there, sir. And
nice
Regina tonight, NDP public service critic Erin Weir. Not as much sun in Saskatchewan, but good to see you both, gentlemen. Appreciate you doing this. Marco Mendicino, I'm going to start with you. I think that Katie summed it up well there, but the number is fairly staggering that 80,000 public servants have had some sort of pay issues since this started. Why has the government allowed this number to get so high before fixing it?
Well, I begin by saying the situation is completely unacceptable, and we sympathize and our hearts go out to the hardworking public servants who are out there trying to provide support and critical services to Canadians and abroad. We understand that the numbers are large and concerning, and that is why we are doing everything in our power to fix the situation as quickly as possible. I would pick up on something that Katie mentioned in your lead-up, and that is that the situation was allowed to deteriorate, not by this administration, but the last. And so we're now lifting the hood and looking at the pay system and really seeing how much work has to be done. It seems to me that one of the flaws in the approach of the past administration was to not have ensured that there was adequate training for our frontline managers, which is just something that doesn't make much sense. So we're addressing that. We're adding resources. We've actually come to an agreement with the union to add additional frontline payroll advisors so that we can address the outstanding pay issues as quickly as possible.
Okay, I should tell people, I didn't tell people off the top, that we did ask the Conservative Party, the official opposition, to provide someone to talk about this, and no one was made available. So that's why there's no Conservative here tonight. Erin Weir, what do you make of the fact that we are now at what seems to be a pretty staggering number? I should point, it's only about it's 700 or so people who have received no pay since January, but 80,000 people who have had some sort of problem with their pay. What do you make of it?
Well, I'm delighted to be here on behalf of the progressive opposition. 2 months ago at the Government Operations Committee, I questioned the issue of Phoenix problems with Judy Foote, the Minister of Public Services. She said that there were only 80 outstanding cases, so it was striking today to have the admission that there are actually more like 80,000 public servants who've been paid the wrong amount or not paid at all. In any workplace, we would expect the employer to pay its employees correctly and on time. So it's really a boondoggle that our federal government isn't meeting this basic obligation.
Yeah, I mean, I get that there were problems with the pay system, Marco Mendicino. I get that the Liberals didn't choose this particular pay system, but you are the government that put it in place. So how did we get from exactly what Erin Weir says there, 77, I think, cases was the number that Judy Foote quoted to Erin Weir in that committee meeting, up to 80,000 people who now have a problem? I mean, at what point does the government say, like, fix this immediately? Because that hasn't happened, and Judy Foote's been talking about it for a number of months now.
Well, we are doing our level best to fix this as quickly as possible, as I said, but just an important clarification. There are approximately 700 or 720 individuals who've received no pay at all. Now, we're not diminishing that number, and we're doing everything in our power to make sure that they get a lump sum retroactive paycheck, I think, by no later than the next 7 to 10 days. So that's an important point.
I know, but the problem started in January. And yes, we are now July, and these people haven't had a pay. I mean, how is that okay?
Well, it's not okay, and I don't want to leave your viewers or your audience, some of whom I think work within the public service, with the impression that we think that this is okay. It's not, but the clarification I was making was that we've got 700 or roughly thereabouts who haven't received any pay at all, and then the balance of that larger number are individuals who have some retro pay owing to them by virtue of leave or some other particular pay increase. But look, we are taking a different approach to the way that we have a relationship with both our public servants as well as the unions that represent them. And I think that the fact that the minister was able to reach an agreement with PSAC to add additional resources to address these issues as quickly as possible is a positive sign. In addition to that, she's requested the Auditor General to look into this. So we're not shying away from the criticism. We're doing everything in our power to fix the problem as quickly as possible.
Okay, Erin, where do you...
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I mean, Marco is trying to talk about all this good work that the minister is supposedly doing, but what struck me was the minister's absence today. Rather than coming forward and taking ownership of the problem and providing some confidence that it will be solved in an urgent manner, the government instead just put up these officials from the Department of Public Services. So it seems to me that they really are kind of hiding from the problem and shying away from it.
What do you say to that, Marco Mendicino? I mean, it is true that Judy Foote did some interviews on Friday, but today, it was the bureaucrats who were left to explain the problems, and I thought that ministers were generally accountable for what happens inside their department.
Of course they are, and of course she's made herself available for interviews, and she will continue to do so. And I think it's unfortunate whenever the opposition uses an unfortunate situation like this to try and play politics with rhetoric like that. Of course, the minister is very concerned about it. That's why she's charged all of her delegates and our officials to make actual progress, and that's why you're seeing the PSAC come to an agreement with the government to add additional resources so that we can have more people answering phones to receive the complaints and the concerns so that we can turn this around as quickly as possible. There's no need to play politics today, Rosie. We are going to fix this as quickly as possible.
Erin, last word to you, sir.
Well, I mean, of course, everyone wants to work together to fix this problem. To do so, we need a government that's actually taking the issue seriously. Up until today, we've had a government kind of downplaying and dismissing the issue. So we can only hope that despite the minister's absence, that the Liberals are finally going to follow through on this after having missed many opportunities over the course of several months.
Okay, well, let me just end with this, Marco Mendicino. When Judy Foote gave that number to Erin Weir back in May, and perhaps you don't know the answer to this, but was she misinformed, wildly misinformed by her own department about how many people are actually affected? Because it's unclear to me how she would have gone from that number up to 80,000 in July. Was the government not aware of the scope of the problem?
Well, I think that must be it, and that's certainly the most plausible theory that I can come up with. And I would say that since that time, there have been additional people who have come forward to indicate that there is something wrong with their payroll system. And in addition to that, we've had people actually looking into the problem to understand and appreciate the size of it. But there can be no doubt about our resolve to act on the size of the problem, and we are doing exactly that with the aforementioned examples.
There can be some doubt. There can be some doubt because, as I said, this started very quickly after it was put in place, and now we're in July. We're learning the magnitude of the problem. We're hearing stories from people who can't pay bills, and it's just now that the government is putting additional people in place and providing a full briefing about what's going wrong. So there can be some doubt about how quickly you wanted to act.
Theories isn't going to provide much reassurance to federal employees who've missed mortgage payments as a result of not being paid the money that they've earned for months on end. I mean, this is a very serious problem.
And the fact, Marco Mendicino, that these people are going to receive a lump sum payment and I imagine will be taxed on a significantly bigger portion. That would be a serious concern for them as well.
Well, and I should say that in addition to the examples I've already cited, that there have been exploratory talks with employees on the front line to look at ways in which we can compensate those exceptional cases where people have been put out as a result of this. But just to circle back to your original question, look, as time goes on, you learn about additional problems, you learn about deficiencies in the system, and that has obviously led to a revised number. But again, I would reiterate that as we now have a much better appreciation of what the size of the problem is, we are taking the proportionate response, and we are going to fix the problem on behalf of the hardworking public servants of the government, and we will move forward from it.
Okay, gentlemen, we're going to leave it there. Thank you for giving up one of your July's days for me.
It was always a pleasure to do so, Rosie.
Okay, Marco Mendicino, Erin Weir, thanks again. Again, we did invite a Conservative